Alright guys, welcome back to the garden, and today is all about cabbage, and later we're gonna make some amazing enchiladas with cabbage. So here I am in between the cabbage. This used to be a potato field, as I mentioned before, and over here on the right you can still see there is some green and yellow beans being covered with a sheet for frost. But these cabbages, they had no problem surviving the frost, so they're very cold hardy vegetable, and that's why I recommend them growing in autumn. So growing cabbage is very similar to growing the kale, and the number one tip I can give you is to grow it in autumn. So the main reason why you want it to grow it in autumn is because of the pest pressure, which is insane. As the winter goes into the spring, all the insects just start to be so much more awakened and active, and they just want to eat everything that's there, and they're gonna decimate your cabbage, and you will have more problems, especially the white butterfly, and they're leaving these caterpillars, and they just can decimate all your plant, all the brassicas like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, any of these, they will just decimate. So especially when they're young, the seedlings, you want to take care of them. But even the big cabbages will get decimated like this if you don't take care of the pests. So you also planted some cabbage in the spring, but even though they grew big, they're getting rotted. It's much harder to store them in the spring. And in autumn, the best thing, if you have so many cabbages like we had over here, you can see we had about 50 cabbages, and you know, they're quite big, and they're easier to store because it's already cold. Nights are often 0 or under 0 degrees right now, and the days are only about 5 degrees, so they're doing really good being stored. And we make the sour cabbage, which is you just put it in some bucket with salt. So this is why it's perfect to grow cabbage. If you wanna fermented sour cabbage, it's the sauerkraut, it's the best to grow it in autumn. Pests just you know, they go hide, all the insects just go hide, especially October, November, they go away. But the cabbage is, you know, it's December already. Today is I think 2nd December. Now I'm gonna show you a few. We have at least 2 cabbages still growing here, the small ones, and I think they might even survive a winter here. And over here you can see we picked this cabbage already, but there are new cabbages regrowing. So I guess I'm just gonna leave it like this and see what happens, if we're gonna get like 5 more cabbages from this, but I'm not sure what's gonna happen. You can see it's the case with more of them. Here is new ones growing. Alright, so when is the best time to plant the cabbage? I already mentioned it's in the autumn, but cabbages take around 3 to 4 months to grow, so you want to plant them already about middle of August. So this is the diameter of one cabbage, which is maybe 75 centimeters to 1 meter is sufficient. So if you leave them only a little space, they're not gonna have much place to grow, to, you know, have the sun. And another tip again is to put them on a sunny place. So here we have a sun pretty much 12 hours a day in the summer. There is never shade here, and that's why they're doing the best here. That's why we had big cabbages like this, like you can buy in a store. Even bigger ones, of course. The bigger ones we used for the sauerkraut, but you know, this is a pretty good sized cabbage. And of course, with any other leafy vegetables, you want a fertile soil with lots of organic matter, organic compost. So make sure you always compost all your kitchen waste. And also they require a lot of nitrogen, so you can use your urine. If you pee at night in a bottle and pour it in the garden in the morning, that's perfect. They're pretty good with competing with the weeds, because the leaves just grow like this at the bottom, as you can see. So I didn't do much weeding around them, only between the rows with the horseshoe weeder. So as I said, they're really low maintenance vegetable to grow, same like kale. I pretty much didn't do anything with them. As I said, the timing of planting is the most important, because in the springtime you're gonna have more pressure with the insects. You have to pick them up, you know, or use some chemicals which is not vegan. Finally, watering. I found that they don't require that much water, but during the droughts, especially when you plant them in August like we did, there is a big drought from about middle of August till about end of September, which doesn't rain for about a month, and that's when you have to water about once a week. I found, like, sufficiently. Sufficiently means that you water for about 20 seconds with a hose on one cabbage. But if it rains, one rainpour per week is enough for them to thrive. Same with watering other vegetables. Alright, so I hope you're gonna grow cabbage, and I'm gonna show you a recipe today to make with them, and I'll see you in the kitchen. Alright guys, welcome back to the kitchen, and today's recipe is gonna be vegan enchiladas, and we're gonna use our cabbage here together with some other vegetables, and we're also gonna use the beans. So we're using the pinto beans. If you're using the canned ones, you don't have to do this, but we're using the dried ones. So if you're also using the dried ones, you have to cook them first, and the best is to soak them in the water so they don't take that much time cooking. So you wanna soak them for about 8 hours preferably, and then put them to cook in the water, and we're using around 600 grams. And we're also gonna use mushrooms. So we're using these mushrooms over here, and we are defreezing them because these are the frozen mushrooms that we have left from the summer. But obviously you probably have store-bought mushrooms, so you just have to chop them up. And you also need a cabbage and one onion, and we're gonna saute it together with the mushrooms.
So we're gonna start by sauteing the onion with about 200 grams of mushrooms.
So you don't have to add any water to these mushrooms because they release their own water. Especially the wild mushrooms, they carry a lot of water. Maybe the store-bought mushrooms you might add a little bit, so just so it doesn't burn to the bottom. As you can see, these are perfect. Okay, we're also gonna add in about 3-4 cloves of chopped garlic. Alright, next we're gonna chop up about 2 bell peppers. Alright, so now the main part that you were waiting for, how to use this cabbage. So now we're cooking the peppers with the mushrooms and onion, and now we're gonna use the cabbage. So first you want to peel these outer leaves because they're too much starchy and also some dirt could be on them, so just wanna peel about first 2-3 leaves, and then we're gonna chop about 3 cups of this of the cabbage. So I'm just gonna cut about half of this. Okay, so first you chop it like that, and then we can chop it to nice smaller pieces. You don't want to have too much at once because it's gonna go everywhere, so just chop a little bit first. It's nice homegrown cabbage. Okay, now we're gonna measure about 3 cups. Now we're gonna slowly start stirring the cabbage and the pepper. So we still have the moisture from the mushroom, so we don't need to add any water here. And just don't let it be too long because it will burn at the bottom. So now we're just gonna do this technique where we put from the bottom onto the top. This time we can also add a little bit of soy sauce for flavor. Alright, so we still have about 1/2 and 1/4 of cabbage left, so we're gonna chop it up in a food processor and make some quick salad from it. So it's an extra recipe for you here. Alright, so now the beans are finished cooking. They're nice and soft, so we're just gonna strain the excess water from them. So once we added the beans, we're gonna add about 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin, black pepper, and flavored salt. We're gonna use a little bit of thyme and a little bit of oregano. So the next step for enchiladas is to make the tomato sauce. So here we have frozen tomato sauce that we made in the summer. This is pretty much just blended tomatoes with some basil and parsley, I believe. We're gonna also add some oregano here and some garlic powder and some salt. So now we're just gonna defrost it and put in a pan to heat up a little bit and then mix it up a little bit more. But if you don't have a blended tomato, you can always use canned tomatoes. So just blend tomato paste with canned tomatoes together in a blender. And again, add some spices like oregano, basil, and also add some salt in there, garlic powder, onion powder, and that's pretty much your tomato sauce. But now I'm just gonna defrost this one. Alright guys, so next we're gonna make our cheese sauce while our tomato sauce is preparing. So we're gonna put about 1/2 cup of cashews. Right now we're gonna put in a blender 1/2 cup of cashews. Next we have 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. The other half of the lemon we can use for flavoring the cabbage, for the shredded cabbage for the salad. Next we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. Okay, Don't want to overdo it with vinegar because it has a strong flavor and smell. And 1 tablespoon of mustard. Also, if you have nutritional yeast, you can add about 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, but we don't have, so we're just gonna mix this. For the salad, we're gonna use about 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. Next, we're gonna add about a teaspoon of garlic powder and about a tablespoon of tamari or soy sauce. And 1 cup of water. And now we're gonna blend it. Alright, so now our tomato sauce is all defrosted. So now I want to make it thicker, so I'm just gonna blend it here. Okay, so now we're just gonna add a little bit of salt. And also we're gonna add some chili. If you don't like spicy, you don't have to add any chili. But if you want a spicy enchilada a la Mexico, a la Mexico, then you want to add a bit of chili powder. Alright, and finally a little bit of oregano. Alright. Then we add a little bit to the bean and cabbage mixture. Just so it gets in the flavor as well. So this is just gonna be around it, but we want some of the sauce also in there. Alright, so don't forget to taste your beans and cabbage for saltiness. And also your sauce.
So if your sauce is too watery, you can add a little bit of cornstarch, maybe a tablespoon, and after you add it, you have to quickly stir it. So it should be the consistency of a sauce that you buy in the jars in the store.
Alright, and finally we're gonna assemble our enchiladas. So as you know, for enchiladas we're using the tortillas which come from Mexico. So you can, the healthiest is corn tortillas, but here we have a regular wheat tortillas. Here it says suitable for vegans. I think most tortillas are vegan, but just to make sure that you don't have any milk powder or something like that in there. And you can use as many as you want, but we have only 3 now left. So I'm gonna start one by one. It's a bit broken, doesn't matter. So place your tortilla at the bottom, and first we're gonna start with putting the insides. So here we have the bean mixture, bean and cabbage. I haven't forgot that this is a cabbage recipe. So make a nice handful here. You can add later more. Now make it like this, place. And then we're gonna make another one right next to it. So again, take a good spoon. Now just put it in there like that. And this third one is gonna fit in perfectly right at the corner. Now you can kind of close it a little bit. Now the best part, the tomato sauce on top. Just gonna slowly pour it in from this side, and slowly we're gonna go on over here. Finally, our cheese sauce. So here we go. tray and put more enchiladas and have a thicker sauce, but we're experimenting here, following a whole food vegan plant-based cooking show. Okay, now we have the oven preheated to 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna put in the enchiladas for 50 minutes to bake. 50. Alright guys, now it's been about 50 minutes and we're gonna take the enchilada out. Okay, here we go guys. Look at that. Wow. Look at the creaminess. Alright, so now we're just gonna let it cool down. So here it is, the enchiladas. So you can see how the cheese melted on top and it got kind of hard. So even though when we put it in it was kind of really watery, now it got much harder. We already ate half of it, so that's how good it is. I'm just gonna try a little bit. Our sauce is really sour. I think it's probably because we use cherry tomatoes for the sauce, but I think if you use your regular canned tomatoes and tomato paste, it wouldn't be as sour. But nevertheless, this recipe is amazing with all the beans and the cabbage in there. It's a really good recipe. So I hope you like this one and all the tips about cabbage. Stay tuned for more videos, and as always, keep cooking and keep gardening.